Hello, Brett.
Hey Eric, how are you?
Good. Who are you?
Hello everyone, my name is Brett Stiegerwaldt. I'm the head distiller for Lion Rum, located in beautiful St. Michael's, Maryland, where we've been making beautiful bespoke spirits since 2013.
What is your entrance into the distilled spirits industry? You, I know, as a rum distiller. So, how did you get in the industry and where did you fall in love with rum?
Great question. So I've been making liqueurs since 2005. Started as a college hobby. Found a website called Danish Schnapps Recipe, run by this delightful old Danish grandmother. She gave me the inspiration to do fruit and spice infusions into vodka and other neutral spirits, rum, for example. And I just kind of kept at it. I lived in France for a few months in 2012. And then while touring Europe with my sister, I really fell in love with the fruit brandy culture of Austria and thought to myself when we were in a cafe, I think I could do this. Thought more seriously about pursuing that as an interest and happened to meet a friend of the owner, Jamie Winden, at a bar in Asheville, North Carolina. One thing led to another, a few emails, a few phone calls, and then I quit my corporate engineering job, picked up my life, and moved to coastal Maryland to make rum. Now, when I first moved here, I very much appreciated rum, but I would not say that I was a rum head at that point because there was so much to learn. But then the further that I got into this industry, the more that I learned, the more that I just fell in love with the category. Coming from the liqueur side, I was definitely excited because rum is such a beautiful neutral vehicle for expressing all these different types of flavors through all natural means, whether that's infusion or vapor distilled or whatever. And then from that, you can really leverage rum's ability to be flexible and flavor driven from a fermentation side to kind of make that into whatever you want. So that's how I got into this industry and have been very fortunate to be at such an amazing facility with an amazing owner and who's incredibly supportive of all the experimental stuff we get to do.
When I first met you, you were already doing academic research in rum. So you started your deep dive into rum with Lion Distilling, but you've also continued pursuing academia and that exploration into rum. What is so compelling about it for you?
Right. So I got into this industry because it was a curiosity led project that became a hobby. And, I didn't come from a family of people who regularly consumed alcohol. So it was kind of a new thing. And, alcohol is a vehicle into cultural appreciation, right? So the more that I learned about rum, the more that I realized that there had been a lot of research and investigations that happened at the turn of the century, in Jamaica, in the English-speaking Caribbean, in the French-speaking Caribbean, and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. And as part of a project that was ultimately for my master's through Harriet Watt in Scotland, it led me down. It allowed me to explore those curiosities and kind of learn more about rum fermentation techniques across the Caribbean and how to adapt and leverage those for the American rum industry. And the more that I've learned about these historical techniques and the more that new yeast strains and bacteria strains have come out and become easily usable by small to medium facilities like ours, the more I saw a real need in sharing my findings in a way that could be quickly applicable for the overall distilling industry. Because if we can do novel and relevant research here at our small facility, then any facility with access to the expensive lab equipment, GCFID, all those types of investigatory tools, you could then leverage that and affect great change across the industry. Additionally, the more that I learned about rum production techniques, the more that I saw its applicability across a variety of different spirit categories, particularly whiskey, brandy, and others, where those techniques could be leveraged to drive true innovation and true flavor and product innovation in those categories. So I've become a major advocate for talking across these different categories about how you can leverage these techniques for success. Because again, there has not been that much documented evidence in those areas with this. And that may be because of large companies experimenting with this and just gatekeeping it. So my role is just to kind of break down those barriers, share it openly, and start larger discussions within the industry so that we can all together make better spirits and really drive home what, American made products mean in terms of rum, in terms of whiskey, in terms of single malt, in terms of vodka, in terms of gin. We can really leverage these traditional techniques to define ourselves better.
Great. This year at the ADI conference, we will have a rum summit, and you will be presenting at the rum summit. What will you be talking about?
So I was fortunate to receive a grant from EDI to investigate the use of a brand new Schistosaccharomyces Pombe strain that was released by AB Biotech.
I'll interrupt a little
I
bit too and say it's not directly from ADI, but it is we set up the ADI research grant. And so we run an auction to raise funds and then give that money, the 99% of that money goes directly to research. And so we've given you some funds to do research into rum, right? And so you were researching.
Yes. So thank you to ADI and the grant that was able to support my work. I was able to utilize a brand new active dried Schistosaccharomyces pombe strain that AB Biotech recently released, and I was among the first in the United States and also in the world to experiment with this in a production setting. And my talk is going to be about the results of those investigations and what I've learned, and how this can be leveraged not only for rum producers domestically, but also for other spirit categories, so whiskey and brandy. So I am going to talk about that in the context of rum first, and then build out from that about what this means for the overall industry. Because now that you have access to these, what are called non-sack strains, you have a whole new flavor horizon that is now possible for not only rum, but other spirit categories. So I'm very excited to talk about this, and again, to encourage openness with this rum summit. So that way we can all make better rum together.
What is the unique characteristics of Pombe rum, or what is the difference with traditional varietals used and the newer, not new, it's been around for millions of years, but maybe new to our industry, Pombe, use of Pombe rum?
Yeah, so typically when you hear the word Schistosaccharomyces pombe or Pombe in shorthand, most of the time you hear it in the context of Caribbean rum production, specifically Jamaica, with their high ester, highly perfumed, aromatic, funky hogo style of rums, or from Martinique, or from some other islands around the world. So you or Grand de Rome with Grand de Rome rums from Martinique. So whenever you hear Pombe, the reason that it's so important for rum production is because it can handle really complex, challenging fermentation conditions. So think higher temperatures, high sugar concentrations, or large concentrations of acids, where your standard strain, like your Cerevisiae or ale strains, they can handle those challenges to a point, but once they start getting stressed out, they produce lots of non-flavor positive compounds like glycerol and other things. Whereas Schistosaccharomyces pombe, when it gets stressed, makes more flavor. So by leveraging its ability to handle these stressful conditions, you can then lay the groundwork for long-term complex complexly flavored distillates on the back end. So it allows you to leverage techniques that you may have heard of, like cane acid or dunder or muck, and then further leverage other processes called like the Cousins process to make these really funky high ester blending candidates. So that way, if you had, say, 10 barrels, one of those barrels could be this higher ester blend or higher ester blending barrel that you could then use to add those like overripe fruit notes or whatever you're looking for your final distillates. So that's why it's really exciting. It has been available, but you would have to have the ability to culture it and grow it and propagate it. And not every facility has a dedicated space for that in like a lab, in a lab setting. So by having an active dried version now, it allows everyone to leverage its ability to handle those challenging fermentations to make more flavorful things, whether that's rum primarily, or whiskey, or brandy, or other types of things. So it's a very exciting time to be a distiller. New horizons are
Absolutely.
definitely within reach.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing you at the ADI conference and hearing more and hopefully tasting more of your research.
Yeah, definitely. I'll come down with some samples for people to try, probably through the AB Biotech booth. I think they'll be able to exhibit them. But yeah, it's going to be a great conference. We're going to talk a lot about rum, a lot of new perspectives, and talk about why this is an exciting time to be an American rum distiller.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you so much.